Good morning, children. Welcome back to the lesson The Enemy, written by Pearls Speck. In the first session, we had a detailed introduction about the lesson, and this lesson is all about Dr. Sadov as an experienced doctor and the dilemma he faces. Okay, a detailed description of the character Sadov and his wife Hannah is explained, and the third main character, that is an American soldier who is washed up to the houses of Sadov and Hannah. They were living near a seashore, and this American soldier was washed ashore in front of their house, and both the doctor and his wife went to see who the fellow was, and later on they came to know that he was a American prisoner of war, and they identified by his complexion and by the cap, the tattered cap or the battered cap he was wearing with. Okay, and he was badly bleeding, and there came the dilemma whether to drop him back to the sea or handing him over to the police. Both way death will take place for the person. Okay, here we stopped, and now let us continue. Yes, children, now you can open page number 28 of your textbook. We are in the middle of page number 28. Yeah, finally they identified the person as an American prisoner of war, and in the cap it is written US Navy. The man was a prisoner of war. He has escaped, Hannah cried softly, and that is why he is wounded in the back, Sadov agreed. Actually, that wound, the gunshot was at his back. That is a sign that he was just escaping and somebody shot him from the back. They hesitated, looking at each other. Then Hannah said with resolution. What is resolution? Strong determination. Come, are we able to put him back into the sea? If I am able, are you? Sadov asked. That means there is a doubt with the doctor whether he would be able to do that. Okay, by Hannah. No, Hannah said, but if you can do it alone. But Hannah said, no, I cannot help, but if doctor alone can do it, it is possible. Sadov hesitated again. The strange thing is, he said, that if the man were whole, I could turn him over to the police without difficulty. I care nothing for him. He is my enemy. All Americans are my enemy. Children, please underline this expression that the doctor says all Americans are his enemy, and he is only a common fellow. Okay, he is my enemy. He reiterates that the person is his enemy, right? Later on, one question will come for all of you, whether the doctor was a real patriotic, okay, or real patriot. That question may come, so you have to underline this line. He is my enemy, all Americans are my enemy, and he is only a common fellow. Okay, all Americans are my enemy and he is only a common man. You see how foolish his face is, but since he is wounded, here is some dots there that shows as a doctor he has to treat him. That is his first primary duty. And at the same time he says, if he is a whole man, what do you mean by whole man? A complete healthy man, he could have handed over to police. Okay, you also cannot throw him back to the sea. Hannah said, then there is only one thing to do. We must carry him into the house. But the servant Sadov inquired. But finally they decided to take him back to their home for treatment. But suddenly doctor asked, what about the servants? Yeah, the Shadow is afraid of the servants. Why? Because they may inform the matter to the police. Because harboring or accommodating an enemy in their home is not safe for the couple. So doctor has his own inhibitions. We must simply tell them what we intend to give him, that we intend to give him to the police, as indeed we must. Shadow, we must think of the children and your position. It would endanger all of us if we did not give this man over as a prisoner of war. So Shadow is quite worried, and Hannah once again telling that actually there is no plan to keep him as a permanent guest in the home. After the treatment, he could be handed over to the police, right? Otherwise, the entire family would be in danger. Certainly, Shadow agreed. I would not think of doing anything else. Shadow's intention is also like that, just giving him the treatment and handing over to the police. Thus agreed together, they lifted the man. He was very light, like a fowl, bird, like hen, that had been half starved for a long time until it is only feathers and skeleton. So here is a comparison used, that man is not very heavy, he is very thin, like that of a fowl which was under starvation for quite some time, only feathers and skeleton. So his arms hanging, they carried him up the steps and into the side door of the house. This door opened into a passage, and down the passage they carried the man towards an empty bedroom. It had been the bedroom of Shadow's father. So it's very, you have to note down that prisoner of war was taken to their house and was kept in the bedroom of Shadow's father. Now Shadow's father is no more. He is dead and gone. And since his death, it had not been used. They laid the man on the deeply matted floor. Everything here had been Japanese, to please the old man, who would never in his own home sit on a chair or sleep in a foreign bed. Hannah went to the wall cupboard and slid back a door and took out a soft quilt. She hesitated. The quilt was covered with flowered silk, and the lining was pure white silk. Finally, the couple brought the prisoner of war to their home and was kept in his father's bedroom, and that bedroom was not in use after his father's death. Okay, and finally Hannah took a quilt, what is a quilt? You are using as a quilt to ward off cold. Okay, the quilt, she, in Hindi we say rajai, quilt, and she hesitated. Why? Because the quilt was white in color, and actually the man, the prisoner of war, was bleeding. Blood may spoil the cloth. That's why she was little hesitating. Okay, next paragraph. He is so dirty, she murmured in distress. Actually, the man is dirty with the blood stain on his body. Yes, he had better be washed. Shadow agreed. And finally, doctor said, okay, he be washed. If you will fetch the hot water, I will wash him. Doctor agreed that he would wash the patient. But Hannah hesitated. I cannot bear for you to touch him, she said. We shall have to tell the servants he is here. I will tell Yumi now. She can leave the children for a few minutes, and she can wash him. Finally, Hannah decided to call Yumi. So now we are getting another character, dear children. Another character is coming up, that is Yumi. Yumi is the servant who looks after the children at home, and now they decided that the children can be left free for some time and Yumi can wash this man. So Yumi is the domestic servant. Shadow considered a moment. Let it be so, he agreed. You tell Yumi and I will tell the others. But the utter pallor of the man's unconscious face moved him first to stoop and feel his pulse. It was faint, but it was there. He put his hand against the man's cold breast. The hurt too was yet alive. Actually, as a doctor, he wanted to check the pulse of the man, and the pulse, there is a faint beating of the pulse, and his heart was alive. He will die unless he is operated on. Finally, the doctor decided to operate him on, otherwise he would die. Okay, the question is whether he will not die anyway. That is a very double meaning is here. Anyway, even after curing him or treating him, finally he has to be sent to the police, so death is certain for him. But as a trained doctor, his prime duty is to treat the patient. Hannah cried out in fear, "Don't try to save him. What if he should live?" In that case, so what is the sense of making him alive? "What if he should die?" said applied. He stood gazing. Okay. Down to the motionless man. This man must have extraordinary vitality, or he would have been dead by now. But then he was very young, perhaps not yet 25. So doctor presumes that the man is a man of courage and might not be more than 25 years. So it is guessed out that he is a very young chap having much courage, otherwise he would have been killed by this time. "You mean die from operation?" Hannah asked. "Yes," Shadow said. Finally, Hannah had a doubt whether he would die after the operation. But who cannot believe that? Hannah cannot believe because Shadow is an experienced and expert doctor. Hannah considered this doubtfully, and when she did not answer, Shadow turned away. "At any rate, something must be done with him," he said, "and first he must be washed." First thing is to be done is to wash the patient. He went quickly out of the room, and Hannah came behind him. She did not wish to be left alone with the white man. He was the first she had seen since she left America, and now he seemed to have nothing to do with those whom she had known there. Here he was her enemy. Another line, dear children, even the doctor's wife consider that person as her enemy, a menace, a threat, living or dead. Whether he is a living person or a dead person, now the prisoner of war is a threat for both the doctor and his wife. So very clear that both the doctor and his wife were true patriot. Okay, but decided to treat the prisoner of war. She turned to the nursery and called Yumi. She went to the nursery where children are being treated. But the children heard her voice, and she had to go in for a moment and smile at them and play with the baby boy, now nearly 3 months old. Being a mother, she had to spend some time with the children. Over the baby's soft black hair, she motioned with her mouth, "Yumi, come with me." Okay, Yumi should be separate from the children, so she just motioned with gestures. She said, "I will put the baby to bed." Yumi replied, "He is ready." She went with Yumi into the bedroom next to the nursery and stood with the boy in her arms while Yumi spread the sleeping quilts on the floor and laid the baby between them. And finally, Yumi made the children asleep and escorted Hannah to the place where the prisoner of war is there. Then Hannah led the way quickly and softly to the kitchen. The two servants were frightened at what their master had just told him. The old gardener, who was also a house servant, pulled a few hairs on his upper lip. So the another character that we are going to have is the old gardener. Actually, two other servants were there in the family, and Hannah informed the matter to them. But the gardener was very orthodox by nature. He expressed his what you call dissent. I mean, he is not willing that his master should give treatment to that man. Okay, the master ought not to heal the wound of this white man. He said bluntly, openly to Hannah. the white man ought to die. According to him, that shows he too is a true patriot. Old Gardner is also a patriot because they were all against the Americans. First he was shot, he says, first the man was shot, then the sea caught him and wounded him with her rocks. If the master heals that what the gun did and what the sea did, they will take revenge on us. So children, be very particular about this dialogue by the gardener. Gardener is so very orthodox by nature, and he is not willing that the man be treated by his master, and according to him he must die. First of all, he had a gunshot. Second, he was wounded by the rocks, and third thing is that doctor should not heal him or treat him. Okay, I will tell him what you say, Hannah replied courteously. But Hannah agreed, okay, I will inform the matter to your master. But she herself was also frightened, although she was not superstitious. That means this man is superstitious. One who believes in the old faith and all is called superstitious, as the old man was. Okay, could it ever be well to help an enemy? Nevertheless, she told Yumi to fetch the hot water and bring it to the room where the white man was. And finally, she ordered Yumi to bring some hot water where the white man was accommodated. She went ahead and stood back the partition. Shadow was not yet there. Yumi, following, put down her wooden bucket. Then she went over to the white man. When she saw him, her thick lips folded themselves into stiffness. Stubbornness means stiffness, stiff. She became adamant. I have never watched a white man. This is the reply of that old lady Yumi. That shows she too is a true patriot, was against the American. She said, and I will not wash so dirty a one now. She bluntly said that she could never do this work. Hannah cried at her severely. Hannah, being the mistress of the house, shouted at her, "You will do what your master commands you." She shouted at Yumi, telling that she must obey the words. There was so fierce a look of resistance upon Yumi's round, dull face that Hannah felt unreasonably afraid. Even the mistress of the house, Hannah, was frightened by the look of that old lady. After all, if the servant should report something that was not as it happened, actually Hannah is frightened. If she insists Yumi to do the work, sometime Yumi may inform the matter to the police and the couple would be in trouble. So very well, she said with dignity, "You understand, we only want to bring him to his senses so that we can turn him over as a prisoner. Okay, I will have nothing to do with it," Yumi said. Actually, Yumi has no role. Yumi says, "I have no role. Whether you treat him, whether you save him, whether you hand him over to the prisoner, as a prisoner, Yumi has no role in it. I am a poor person and it is not my business." This is what she said. She be spared. "Then please," Hannah said gently, "return to your own work." Okay, in that case, you go back and treat the children or look after the children. At once, Yumi left the room, but this left Hannah with the white man alone. She might have been too afraid to stay had not her anger at Yumi's stubbornness now sustained her. Actually, the doctor has gone out to bring his paraphernalia. By then, Hannah was alone in that room. But she gained courage only because she had a tough time with the Yumi. Okay, let us, dear children, let us stop here for the day. I hope you understood what I explained, and we have come across a few characters. One is Yumi, the domestic servant, and the other one is the two servants out of that, the superstitious gardener. Okay, and today we discussed about the prisoner of war being taken to their house and was kept at Shadow's father's room, which was not in use after his death. And finally, Hannah and her husband decided to wash him first before the operation. An operation was very much required to save his life, and they, in order to clean the man, they requested the house servant Yumi, but Yumi resisted, and she said she could never wash a white man. And the same way, the gardener also expressed his unwillingness to accommodate a person in their home by the master, and according to him, the master should not treat him because he had a gunshot already, and even the sea also, the rock on the shore also wanted to kill him, but who should not save him? That master should not save him. Okay, children, we will stop here, and by the by, all of you write down the difficult words and write down the questions and their answers. Okay, we shall meet again with tomorrow's continuation. Till then, bye.